reasons, but someone no doubt still had some as a souvenir. After all, the stuff was impossible to sew, flame-proof, and immune to decay, so what would anyone have done with all of it exactly? For there were people at Bladno. There were quite a lot of people, in fact. All the final armies of the free world had come this way, when the tide of battle turned, and the Kinslayer met them for one final fight at the gates of Nidarrow, his greatest fortress. Most of the survivors had come back this way and got no further. Many had no homes to return to, nor purpose, now their task was done. Celestaine knew the baggage trains that armies accumulated, and the new community at Bladno looked like the baggage train of the gods themselves. 1,000 tents, 100 slanting shacks built up against the bones, a handful of real buildings already emerging from the human wreckage. She saw a smithy and the great covered square of an Oerna-style market, while a well-known taverner with pretensions of grandeur had set up in Vermerod's skull and festooned it with flags and banners. Celestaine felt an unwanted stab of pity for the fallen beast. At least it looks like he's having a good time at last. "Did you see the thing when it was alive?" she asked the companions who loomed at her shoulders. Nedlam hadn't, and didn't seem interested. Hino tugged on the silver of his beard. "Not this one. I saw some of the smaller ones bred." The deep rumble of his voice buzzed under Celestaine's chestbone, and she twitched her shoulders. "Your man is here, this pity creature of yours." "Don't call him that!" she snapped at him immediately, and heard his impatient hiss of breath. Hino wasn't good at empathy. It was something she was trying desperately to teach him, something she was hoping he could actually learn. She had made quite a bet with the world on that score. But here, yes, there's a community of his people nearby, on the Forinth side of the border. This is the biggest landmark for miles around. Everyone can find their way to Bladno these days, and once you're in Bladno, everyone can find their way to the Skull Cup. Nedlam, who hadn't heard the name of the place before, found it hilarious, but then it was probably pitched at about her level. Celestaine sighed and slowed her horse, putting a little pressure on the reins until the animal consented to turn a little to let her look at her friends. Friends? Do I call them that in open conversation? What then? Don't know. People I can't in all conscience get rid of? Celestaine was, according to the bards, a silver beauty. Skin like milk, blue eyes, hair so pale as to be white. The bards, most of them, had never actually seen her out of her armour, despite several offers from the more incautious rhymers. But yes, she was fair and pale, though her hair had been hacked short to go under her helm, and was now growing out into an uneven mullet and getting in her eyes. Her face was long, and when not animated by any particular emotion, tended to settle into an expression of narrow-eyed disdain that some men took as a challenge, though in her experience only the most tiresome of them, which was a shame. She was tall, though, long-limbed and broad-shouldered, and there was a lot of the war left in the way she held herself or sat on a horse. On the road, a quite large band of brigands had erupted out of the undergrowth around her and her companions, and then immediately thought better of it and gone peaceably about their business. One of them had even muttered an apology. But perhaps that hadn't been her. Probably it had been the others. They had shrouded up this close to Bladno. Once they'd started getting the expected looks from the other traffic on the road, both of them had put on their cloaks and hoisted up their scarves until only their small, hostile-looking eyes could be seen in a little strip of blue-grey skin between nose and brow. It was not a disguise. There really was no disguising what they were. "You're doing it again," Nedlam pointed out, tapping her own head through the hood. "Thinking always leads to ruin." "Someone's got to," Celestaine pointed out. "Look, we'd better get off the road and make a plan." "Plans, plans, plans," Nedlam shrugged. "You want fire? I'll go get trees." "Wood," Celestaine corrected. "We'll camp out of sight until it's getting dark. Then I'll go in and test the waters. Bladno's going to be crawling with veterans. Who knows how they'll take to a couple of you." Nedlam ambled off to break branches.